Hi everyone, Heather here with astrologywithheather.com, and I am back with another weekly forecast. This one is for Monday, November 26th, all the way through to Sunday, December 2nd of 2018. And this week we have an interesting week in the astrology. Again, it's not going to be quite as chaotic as last week. We do have some really beautiful, beneficial influences from Jupiter coming in, as early as Sunday, which was, the last week's forecast, but I didn't really cover the Jupiter conjunction to the Sun because there's so much other stuff going on. But this week, we're starting off the week with the Jupiter conjunction to the Sun, which is one of the most beneficial expansive, beautiful sort of influences, especially in terms of physical manifestations. So it's considered to be a highly benefic influence. And so a lot of great benefits can come to us in the Sagittarius area of our lives this week. And this is also true because we're going to have Mercury in retrograde conjunct Jupiter, highlighting that conjunction between the Sun and Jupiter on Tuesday. And so we have, sort of a threefold conjunction going on here. We have Jupiter conjunct Mercury conjunct the Sun. And so, we're going to be feeling a lot more optimistic, a lot more expansive. We're going to be, energized and lit up, and we're going to have a chance to sort of take a step back and to get a bigger picture and a broader perspective on what's going on in our lives. So that way, when we move forward, after all of these retrograde energies are finally finished, when we get to move forward, at the end of this year, start of next year, with a lot of our plans and a lot of our plans, a lot of our goals, a lot of the energy that's come up for us over these past 6 months, we've been having retrogrades in all these different planets. It's been like a major sort of period of introspection, of review, of honing in on the details, of sort of refining our energy in a lot of different areas of life. And so it probably feels to a lot of people like, okay, when are we going to finally be moving forward? And especially this week, there's a lot of energy around impatience. Last week we had Mars squaring Jupiter, and that's an energy of wanting to sort of rush into things and, being a little overly ambitious and a little overly energized in terms of pursuing, big, broad, expansive plans and goals. And, our optimism is elevated with this sort of transit, right? With Jupiter, even in square with other planets, it's usually not necessarily a negative transit. It just brings sort of overdoing things, overusing our energy, right? It could lead us to burnout, exhaustion. And on the other end of that spectrum, it can lead us to disappointment because our goals and plans are very big, grandiose, expansive, and they might not necessarily reflect reality, or it could bring this energy of impatience. Like we have this big, huge, fully formed plan, and we expect it to happen all at once. And that's not necessarily going to be the case. And that energy continues this week, especially at the start of this week, because we have Mercury in retrograde in square with Mars, which is in the sign of Pisces. And when Mercury is in retrograde, in general, it's a more introspective time. It's not necessarily a time to take our plans and put them into action. It's a time to reflect on and refine what's already in motion. So that way, when we do move forward, we have a much better outcome for the actions that we take. But when we have Mercury squaring Mars, it can make us quite impulsive in our speech and in the actions that we take. And, this is an on and off transit that started a couple of weeks ago, and it's coming back around. And so what this can do is it can cause us to sort of overdo things. It can cause us to jump into something a little bit too quickly without thinking it through, especially in the signs of Pisces and Sagittarius. Pisces is really good for having these idealistic sort of, plans and goals and things like that, and acting, in the sign of Pisces with Mars, acting on our compassion, acting on our love and our connectedness with everybody, and all of that. But it does bring this sort of rose-colored glasses where we're not necessarily always seeing things realistically. And it's definitely not good for details, right? And the same thing goes for Mercury when it's in the sign of Sagittarius. It's in its detriment in the sign of Sagittarius. Mercury's at home in the sign of Gemini. And so what this does with Mercury and Sagittarius is that it causes us to sort of miss the details, right? And so we can see the bigger picture quite clearly, but the details we have to sort of fill in along the way, or we have others fill it in for us along the way because we can't quite see that. So it gives us a bigger picture, this sort of interconnected perspective on what to do and how to do it. but it doesn't necessarily give us the details of how these things are going to come about. And so, these plans that we might have right now might not be fully formed. And so it's not a good day to just rush into anything. I would also say that, and then Mercury is actually at its closest point to the Earth. So this is sort of an interesting part of the Mercury retrograde, because when Mercury is in retrograde, it's 3 times closer to the Earth already. So that's why the energy of Mercury is 3 times stronger. We end up rushing through things, making mistakes, overthinking things. We end up sort of with a lot of like mishaps and things like that are trying to tell us to slow down, because the mercurial energy is on overdrive right now. And so Mercury is actually at its closest point to the Earth when it's in square with Mars. This is also a time when you can expect people to say things that they don't necessarily mean, or, you can expect greater energy around arguments, disputes, that type of thing. And so, this is a time when you have to be very careful about what it is that you're saying and how you're saying it, because a lot of people are going to be putting their foot in their mouth like, I didn't mean to do that, I didn't mean to say that, or I didn't mean it to come across that way. But yeah, there's an energy of like rushing and needing to do a lot all at once on Monday. But just kind of keep it chill, especially because Jupiter is involved too. Like, you might overdo it. You might sort of get yourself exhausted and burnt out before the week's even started. And it could be that you're trying to catch up from the holiday, if you are in the United States and you just had some time off for Thanksgiving. But in either way, this can lead to accidents, not necessarily like major accidents and things like that. Jupiter is going to be, helping and benefiting us, but it can lead us to rush through things. It can lead us to, stub our toes and bump into things and drop things and all of that, because we're kind of overdoing it. We're overusing our energy. We're rushing through everything. So just, make sure that you're taking time to sort of calm down, come back into your own energy. Mercury will be combust on Tuesday too. So that's, a lot of sort of anxious energy as well, where we might be thinking and overthinking and over planning and making lists and sort of ruminating on things. And, our minds are going to be quite active, and, in retrograde, it's more internalized. So we are overthinking things already. Which is part of, what the Mercury retrograde energy is for. It's like thinking and overthinking and replanning and reconfiguring and re-editing everything. But with Mercury being combust, it'll be, Kazemi, I think is how you pronounce it. It'll be, at the seat of the sun, the heart of the sun, at some point. I think it's at 1:15 a.m. on Tuesday morning. So not necessarily at a time when most people are up and about, at least in the United States. But when Mercury's combust, it can be a little bit difficult. It accentuates some of the more difficult qualities of Mercury, which have to do with being too much in our heads, right? Too rational, too logical, too linear. And really wanting to figure out and hone in on the bigger picture, right? So we're kind of thinking like, okay, how are we going to make this happen? We have these big expansive plans, but I can't see how they're going to come to fruition, and I want it to happen right now. And so that's a lot of the energy of the start of this week. It's not going to happen right now, right? So we have to wait until December, and especially after the holidays, there's going to be a lot of energy of transformation, of forward momentum that'll be coming as we, lead into 2019. But right now, this is the last period of reflection. And then the other thing that's going on this week that is, super important to, make note of, is that we're actually going to be having Venus in opposition to Uranus for the last time. This has come exact 3 times because of the Venus and Uranus retrograde cycles. And so, September 12th was the first time that this came exact. And this was at the beginning degrees of Taurus and Scorpio, with Venus in Scorpio and Uranus in Taurus right before Venus went retrograde. And so, thinking back to that time period, and also October 31st, so middle of September and then end of October, beginning of November is when this energy would have been strong, and when you would have been seeing some sort of rearranging or some sort of frustration, right? Or some sort of need for change, some sort of need to liberate yourself from old patterns, old behaviors, stuck stagnant energy in relationships. And so a lot of sort of change ups in relationships, a lot of abrupt beginnings and endings in relationships, and also in financial matters too, because Venus also rules finance, and it rules beauty, pleasure. So this could also be you just really unexpectedly coming into some sort of new hobby, new interest, new thing that you find really exciting and really pleasurable to do, right? So it's not necessarily a bad thing. Uranus usually brings divine inspiration. It's the great awakener. So it awakens us to where we're not in alignment with who we truly are and what we truly came here to do. And part of that, awakening process with Uranus in opposition to Venus is awakening us to energy that's sort of holding us back in relationships. So if your relationship has become too stuck, too stagnant, too the same monotonous thing day in and day out, Uranus in opposition to Venus is going to bring that up, and you're going to feel really frustrated. And, it could even bring an energy, if you don't act on it and change something and do something exciting with your partner to sort of liven up the energy, it can bring something from the outside to shake things up and to cause a little bit of disruption. So that way you break free from those old patterns. And so that way you can feel liberated and excited about your relationship again. And the same thing with finances. If you're doing the same thing day in and day out, just to earn a paycheck, or if you're dealing with your finances in the same way and, you're kind of stuck in this pattern and it's not necessarily working for you, you're not getting your debts paid off, you're not having a savings, or, you feel too restricted and limited in the way that you're creating resources, Uranus in opposition to Venus is going to help you break free and shake that energy up. And so thinking back to around those time periods, mid-September especially, and then end of October, beginning of November, think about what was coming up for you in terms of excitement, in terms of changes in relationship, changes in finances, unexpected money coming in. That could be another manifestation, a positive one, especially with Uranus in opposition to Venus. Think about what was coming up for you around those times. It could have been multiple themes and multiple things. And of course, we'll get into more specifically how this will affect you when we get into the forecast for all 12 signs. But thinking back to those time periods can really help you to understand what's coming up this last time. And so this last time that this comes exact is going to be sort of the finalization and the resolution point of this transit, where you start to see some of the results of the changes that you've been making, and you get to sort of refine this energy one last time. So make any last adjustments and last changes that you need to make in order to solidify to solidify the changes and to break free, to feel that sense of liberation and excitement again in whatever area of life. And this is also about coming back into balance in the area of life that's affected by this transit through making, some pretty drastic, maybe abrupt changes, right? And so that's the energy of this Uranus opposition to Venus. It can bring a lot of excitement. I personally like Uranus transits, but, sometimes people don't like them, like especially when this was in Taurus and Scorpio. Taurus people don't do as well with Uranus energy. Scorpio doesn't do as well with it either, because Scorpio is sort of fixated on power, control, sort of sorting out what's going to happen. They want to know. They want to piece it all together. But this time it's actually happening in Aries and in Libra. So the end degrees of Aries, it's 28 Aries, 28 Libra that this opposition is coming exact. So there's also this energy, not just because it's the third pass of this transit, but because it's at the end degrees of Aries and Libra. And this is the last time that Uranus will be in Aries over these next couple of months for 84 years, right? And so this is the finalization. This is the last chance to make the adjustments that we need in order to come back into balance in the Aries area of our lives and also the Libra area of our lives. And so it's sort of a finalization in a lot of different ways. It's not just because it's the last pass of this transit. There's also, this energy of the end degrees of the sign. And anytime you're at the end degrees of the sign, it indicates wrapping up some sort of situation, some sort of event, some sort of karma. So that way you can move forward with a clean slate when you move into the next sign. And so that's a lot of what's going on this week. Venus will move into the sign of Scorpio at the end of the week after, this comes exact. And so Venus will be sort of going direct over its retrograde pattern, right? And so on Sunday, you'll have Venus moving into Scorpio, which brings us away from focusing on balance, on the needs of other people. When we have Venus in the sign of Libra, we're focusing on the needs of other people before, in creating balance between other people's needs and our own needs. So thinking about other people before we, do something or take action, looking at what other people need and reflecting that back to them. When we move into the sign of Scorpio, Venus in Scorpio craves really deep intimacy. And also it really wants you to get to the bottom of any sort of old fears, anxieties, issues, traumas, anything that's disempowering you from connecting fully and trusting people in relationship, because it's also about trust, right? When we're talking about Venus in the sign of Scorpio, Scorpio is very sensitive to betrayal, and Venus in Scorpio brings more, I wouldn't say excessive, sometimes it could be excessive, but it brings a higher level of sensitivity to betrayal. And so it makes people a little bit more possessive, a little bit more obsessive over their relationships, jealous, right? Suspicious, all of that, because, you know, people don't want to be let down or lied to. It'll have you thinking about all the times that you've been betrayed in the past in your relationships when you have this sort of transit going on in the skies. And so, you know, that's already been coming up for us when we've had Venus going retrograde back and forth in Scorpio and Libra over these past couple of months. But, you know, this is the final time that we're going to be dealing with that energy. All right. All right. And so before we get into the energy for all 12 signs, I just wanted to make a really quick announcement for anyone who's interested in a gift certificate for the holidays. I'm offering 10% off of all of my gift certificates now through Tuesday. So this is the last weekend that you can get 10% off. So I do want to mention that. And the link to, you know, order or purchase your gift certificate is going to be in the description of this video down below. I'm also obviously taking orders for readings per usual. So you can book a reading with me if you want a more personalized, individualized interpretation of the energy coming up. And the link for that is also in the description below. And then, so for, you know, this forecast, I sometimes forget to mention this, but I like to remind you guys that this is best listened for, or this is best read for your rising sign first, and then your sun sign is secondary. Your rising sign is going to be most accurate because this is read as if your sun was on the ascendant, this solar chart that people use, or that most astrologers tend to use for these sun sign forecasts. And so if you listen for your rising sign, that's going to be more accurate to actual events. Sun sign is secondary. That'll still bring some sort of accuracy. And then some people like to listen for their moon sign. That's okay. Do whatever you would like to do, whatever is helpful to you, right? But yeah, so we're going to get into the forecast now. So for Aries and for Aries rising, at the start of this week, there's a lot of momentum building in the area of your dreams, the area of your sort of perspective on life, right? Higher education, learning through experience, gaining wisdom, gaining knowledge. This is an area that's associated with adventure, right? In the 9th house. And so you have the sun, Jupiter, and Mercury all in this conjunction, bringing a lot of really great benefits to you in this area of life. Maybe you're thinking about starting some sort of new education program. Maybe you found a new teacher that sort of showed up in your life in a way that was very, synchronistic or harmonious in some sort of way. Maybe you're thinking about, making travel plans for the future. With Mercury in retrograde, you have to sort of account for that energy, right, to expect the unexpected. But this is a really great time for you to start making plans for the future. This is, looking at your beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you. This is going to help you to have a better, sort of broader perspective on life. This is going to help you to see the bigger picture if you've been focusing too much on the details and too much on the day-to-day grind. And with the energy of Mars in your 12th house squaring this energy in your 6th house, there could be somebody or something working against you, preventing you from moving forward with some sort of new goal or plan involving higher education, involving travel, involving connection with people in foreign lands, involving, religion or philosophy, or, just expanding your horizons through higher wisdom. This is a lot of energy around wanting to learn something new and experience something new. And it could be that there's some sort of blockage. That blockage could be coming from a person, a hidden enemy, right, in the 12th house of hidden enemies with Mars there. Or it could be an internal blockage. It could be a subconscious block or barrier to you actually moving forward. And that could have to do with your beliefs. And maybe your beliefs are preventing you from actually seeing what you can accomplish and what you can do. The other energy that's going on here is that you have Uranus at 28 degrees in opposition to Venus, which is in your 1st and 7th house. And so especially for people who have Aries, sun, moon rising at the end degrees of Aries, so I would say 25 to 30 degrees, so 25 to 29, 50, because it doesn't go to 30 degrees, in the sign of Aries, you're going to be having this opposition really exact on your ascendant and descendant. And so this is you making any final adjustments that you need to make to come back into balance in your relationships, and to come back into balance in a way that allows you the freedom, the liberation, the mobility to do whatever you want to do in your own independent, unique way. And so if your relationships have become too stuck, too stagnant, this is going to sort of break up that energy and help you to make adjustments in order to come back into balance. Also, if you've been focusing too much on your own independence, your own needs in that area, right? You need to be sort of an independent butterfly of a person. This is going to cause you to come back into balance by, taking into account the needs of the other. This is a really great time to think about doing something really exciting and new within a partnership. And it doesn't have to be a romantic partnership if you're not in one. But, if you are married or in a long-term relationship, this is a great time for you to make adjustments and do something new and exciting together, something that you've never thought of really doing before, because that's going to help to utilize this energy in a very positive way. So take a trip, take a crazy class that you never thought that you would do. Liven things up in some way. This could also be you having to make changes and adjustments to contracts, to other relationships like close friendships, relationships with clients, and how you sort of balance out your energy and the energy of your work with them. And this could also be you having to make adjustments and changes in business partnerships. And this could bring abrupt changes in these areas as well that don't necessarily come from you. So if you're feeling frustrated, or if you're feeling like you sense this energy that something needs to change in this area, take hold of that, because you have the opportunity to do so. Otherwise, it's going to come in anyway, and it's going to be a little harder for you to deal with. And this is the final pass, so you probably have an idea if you think back to mid-September and then like end of October, beginning of November, what was coming up for you in the area of relationship and the area of you, focusing on your own independence, your own needs, needing to liberate yourself from something and free yourself from some sort of bondage or contract. Thinking back to that time period, that's going to give you a good indication of what's coming up, what's coming up moving forward, what's coming up this last time around, and what adjustments you need to make. All right. And so for Taurus and for Taurus rising, at the start of this week, there's a lot of energy in your 8th house. And so there's a lot of energy about healing, like deep healing from the inside out, looking at and addressing. This is illuminating all of your deep fears, insecurities, vulnerabilities, anything that you don't necessarily usually want to look at. It's an energy that's sort of repressed, that's held in, that's held back, that is sort of disempowering you from the inside, right? When we think about, anytime we talk about the 8th house, we're talking about issues that have to do with power and control. And so the 8th house is everything that seems like it's beyond your control. And it also rules our fears. And so, when we're fearful of something, it has a certain level of control over us through us either avoiding that thing or, whatever it is that we do in order to cope with those fears. And so with the Sun conjunct Jupiter here, and then also Mercury involved, you're going to have to revisit some old fears, some old traumas, some old wounds and insecurities. It's going to be illuminated, though, in a way where it's a lot easier to deal with and you don't feel afraid anymore. This could also highlight or illuminate issues involving joint finances, where you need to go back, revisit, re-edit, change something in order to move forward with greater clarity, with a clean slate, more expansiveness, so you can bring in more funding, more resources, or you can pay off your debts. There's an energy here where there's a square from Mars in your 11th house, which is the house of friends and social networks. And so this could bring conflict or some sort of old wound or deep insecurity involving your friends. There could be power struggles within the group, that type of thing. And so just kind of be aware of that, and also be aware of just not acting too impulsively when it comes to your resources, when it comes to, deep, intimate relationships, and also when it comes to your friendships. If there's something that comes up that you feel like you need to take action on, or you need to say, like, oh, I need to say something to this person right now because I'm fed up with this, right? And maybe taking some time and thinking about what it is that you want to say and how you're going to go about saying it before you actually blurt it out, because it might not be taken in a positive way with this Mars square Mercury energy. There's also the opposition between Venus and Uranus, which is happening in the sign of Libra and in the sign of Aries. So this is your 12th and your 6th house. But even if you have like your sun, moon, rising near the first couple of degrees of Taurus, so I would say the first 3 degrees of the sign of Taurus, you're going to be feeling this more on your ascendant and descendant. And so in that case, look back to the Aries interpretation, and you're going to get a little bit of a better feel for what's going on. But for the rest of Taurus and Taurus rising people, this is going to be in your 12th house and in your 6th house. And so this energy is going to be bringing you back into balance through your work, through your day-to-day routines and daily activities. Uranus in the 12th house has you exploring sort of different healing modalities, different forms of meditation that are a little bit unusual, different forms of spirituality that are seen as unusual that maybe you're sort of studying behind the scenes. And now's the time to sort of incorporate what you've learned and what you've been experimenting with into your day-to-day reality. This is also going to help you to come back into balance in your day-to-day work life or in your health routines by changing something and making those last adjustments. Thinking back to what happened the past couple of times on September 12th and October 31st, that's going to give you an idea of the energy that you're sort of finishing out and wrapping up. But this is coming about in a new way, right? Those energies were more about relationship and, finding liberation and balance through relationship. This is more about going back and revisiting your daily routines and how that contributes to either balance or imbalance, or how your day-to-day work routines are inhibiting you from having the freedom that you really truly want and desire. And so you might need to change something. This could bring up a disruption to the energy of your workflow. This could bring disruptions through coworkers or disruptions in your relationship with coworkers, or even a disruption to an important work-related project. So these are all potentials with this energy, but this is more about looking back and seeing the results of a lot of the changes that you made and making those minor last-minute adjustments. For Gemini and for Gemini rising, this is happening so at the start of the week, you're having a lot of energy in your 7th house of relationships. And so this could be you having to revisit something in a relationship, like revisiting an old relationship. An old flame could come back around, and it could come back around in a positive way. It might be, in a way where you have to sort of work with the energy, where you have to revisit something, where you have to go through a process of healing. But in general, with Jupiter there, it's highlighting something very positive, and it's highlighting the need to revisit something, in any relationships that come back around this week. This could be any sort of close personal relationship, not just a romantic partnership, but also a business partnership, close friendship, any close one-on-one relationships from your past, especially I would say a business partnership. But if it is something to do with business, take your time and don't rush into things, because this is where the square comes in. So you have Mars in the sign of Pisces, which is in your 10th house of career. And this is squaring your, this little stellium going on here with the sun, Jupiter and Mercury in your in your 7th house of relationship. And so, there could be an energy where you want to rush into something in terms of like a business partnership, or there could be a disruption or a conflict in relationship with coworkers or with your bosses and superiors, especially, where you thought that everything was like all, light and fluffy and everything was going really well. And then all of a sudden you get reprimanded for something, or, this could be you and your relationships with your employees as well. But this is an energy where you're going to want to rush into something involving, potentially a commitment, a contract, a relationship of some kind. And it's best not to rush, even though there are a lot of really great benefits can come through this connection. Rushing into things is going to lead to disappointment, and it's going to lead to, you having to go back and redo things later on. So just, be aware of that. But there is a lot of positive energy. The focus this week is going to be a lot on relationship. And, this could be a revival or renewal of the passion or the excitement or enthusiasm or optimism in your marriage partnership if you are somebody who's married, because there's this energy of like beauty and expansiveness, and this energy is being highlighted in your 7th house. There could be conflicts, that you have to revisit from the past involving your marriage partnership, but the end result is going to be that, the relationship expands and grows and becomes a lot more beneficial for you as a result of dealing with these issues. The other energy that's happening is the opposition between Venus and Uranus, which is happening in your 11th house and in your 5th house. And so this is you coming back into balance between, first off, looking at the things that you truly love to do, your hobbies, your interests, coming back into balance by, playing a little bit more, by focusing on romance, on things that are fun, on things that you truly love to do because you love to do them. This is also in opposition to Uranus, which is in your 11th house of friendship. So maybe you've been focusing a little bit more on what the group wants, or maybe you need to integrate a little bit more of what the group wants. This could also bring unexpected circumstances involving friendship and romance, where maybe, an old friend comes back around and it becomes a new flame and a new sort of love affair or a romantic sort of fling, right? That could be part of it as well. This could be you needing to shake up your routines when it comes to your romantic life and do something a little bit more exciting and a little bit more, passionate in your partnership. There's a lot of energy around relationships for you this week. There's going to be a lot of action around connecting with people, groups of people, connecting in a romantic sort of way, connecting with people for business. So there's going to be connections going on all week for Gemini, which is what Gemini likes, right? Gemini is very communicative and talkative and social. And this is, a week where you're going to get a lot of social activity, I would say. So that's what's going on for Gemini. So make those last minute adjustments. Think back to mid-September, end of October, beginning of November, those time frames and what was going on for you. And, this is coming about again for the third time, but it's coming about in a little bit of a different way. The last couple of times it was about, having balance between work and rest and adjusting your routines and all of that. And this time it's more about play and pleasure and your passions and the things that you love to do. And, your friends and the groups of people that you like to surround yourself with. So making adjustments in those areas. All right. So for Cancer and for Cancer rising, you have a lot of energy at the start of this week in your 6th house of work. This might be a busy week for you, but, in a way that's going to be beneficial to you, I would say. You might have some sort of conflict between your day-to-day work routines and maybe even your relationship with coworkers and, your integrity and your moral values and ethical values. And, you could be asked to do something that isn't not necessarily in alignment with your beliefs and what you think is the right thing to do. And so this could cause some sort of challenge and conflict in your work. The end result of you dealing with this issue, as long as you take your time and you don't just jump in and, tell someone off, even if you do that, the end result I think will be positive. But, the end result is going to be having a lot more clarity, a lot more integrity in your work. This could also be you making adjustments and going back and revisiting something when it comes to your day-to-day health routines, nutrition, your workout regimens, all of these type of 6th house things that have to do with health. So that way, when Mercury moves forward, you've made all the adjustments that you need to make, and, Jupiter's energy can swoop in and give you, good health and more vitality, and it can help you to have more expansive, better health routines for yourself, to find the right nutrition that you need for your body. And, this could also benefit you in getting some sort of recognition for your day-to-day sort of efforts at work, not necessarily for a big picture project, but for, just working hard every day. The other energy that's happening for you is this opposition between Uranus and Venus, which is happening in your 10th and your 4th house. So again, a lot of energy around work. And but this is you making any last minute adjustments that you need to make in order to come back into balance between work and life, right? What's going on out in the big picture in terms of your career and your public reputation, and what do you want to come home to? Right? What do you want when you're done working? So coming back into balance by creating more freedom and more independence for yourself, so you can enjoy your relationships with your family members, so you can enjoy peace, balance, and tranquility in your home and your family situation, which is something that Cancers love in general. Just because you're a Cancer, right? That's important to you. Your home is like your little sanctuary, and your family is very important. But with Libra on the IC in particular, you want a balanced, tranquil, sort of Zen atmosphere to come home to. And so this is you making any adjustments that you need to make, so that way you can maybe leave your work at home and have that be more independent of what you're doing, in your home and your family life. And so, this could be also you making any last minute changes that you need to make in terms of your career and public reputation. You've gone through like an 8-year period of, ups and downs and roller coasters and upheavals in this area. And so this is you making, some last minute adjustments. This is the final pass of Uranus being in Aries. And I mean, this isn't just happening right now, it's for the next few months. But, this Venus energy is highlighting what you need to do in the area of your work and what you need to do in order to have a more balanced work life where you do have the freedom and the mobility and the independence that you want. You can do things in your own way. All right, for Leo and for Leo rising, there's a lot of energy in your 5th house, which is quite nice. This is time, Leo is sort of the ruler of the 5th house, right? And so the 5th house rules things like romance, play. It's your passions, it's your hobbies, your interests, the things that you do because you love to do them, not because you're obligated to do them, right? It's your inner child. And so, this is going to be you potentially this week, at the start of this week, revisiting an old passion, revisiting something that you used to really love to do that maybe has fallen away way, and you want to reintegrate that back into your life. And a lot of really great benefits can come through reintegrating that energy. This is also highlighting the need to play a little bit more, to relax, to, enjoy romance, to go out and do things that are fun. The fifth house is the house of entertainment, right? It's the house of going out on the town, being seen, going to a restaurant, going to a club, going out dancing, or whatever it is that you like to do. And so, the need to get out and to play a little bit more is going to be highlighted, but there could be some conflict coming from the eighth house, which has to do with things that disempower you. So there could be power struggles in romance. There could be power struggles involving children that prevent you from actually going out and, living it up a little bit. And maybe you have to sort of make some adjustments. You have to maybe have a confrontation in that area after you've thought things through, in order to give yourself the freedom and that sort of liberated energy in the fifth house, so you can play a little bit more, so you can focus on the things that you love. And so this is also beneficial energy where you might have to revisit something involving your children and, make adjustments in that area. And that's going to help you to have more time to play and to, spend time with them. This could also be you making adjustments or revisiting an old flame or an old romance, and that coming back around and you integrating that energy in a positive, beneficial way. And this is also going to be the opposition between Venus and Uranus will be happening in your third and your ninth house. And so the past couple of times that this came exact, it was happening in your 10th and in your fourth house of the home and family and of career and public reputation. And so you were looking at making adjustments to come back into balance, or to create greater balance and liberation for yourself in the areas of your career and what it is that you do for work, and also when it comes to your home life and your family dynamics. This time around, that energy can still be there. If you have your, your midheaven and IC at the starting degrees of Scorpio and Taurus, so I would say within the first 3 degrees of Scorpio and Taurus, it's still going to be happening in those areas of, home, family, property, and also career and public reputation. So maybe going back and listening to the Cancer interpretation will give you an idea of what that'll feel like for you. This time around, it's about making adjustments to your beliefs, right? And this is going to help you moving forward when we have the energy back in your 10th and your 4th house. And so this is looking at maybe revisiting some old belief systems. This is maybe looking at, repatterning or reframing your beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you. This could be you revisiting some sort of old form of education, or thinking about maybe going back to school or coming back into balance by learning a new skill set. This is also you thinking about your day-to-day self-talk, which is something that's been going on with Venus in retrograde in your 3rd house, where you have to think about, first off, the way that you speak to others, right? And maybe the way that you sort of disregard your own needs through your day-to-day thoughts, your day-to-day communications, and, maybe making some adjustments there as well. But there is some sort of energy where there could be a disruption to communication, or disruption to balance in communication. This could also bring a need to change something or make adjustments when it comes to travel plans, so that way you can create better balance and greater harmony moving forward. If you are a writer, or if you're in marketing, this could be you making adjustments to a manuscript or to your marketing plan, or even if you have your own business, having to make those last minute final adjustments, so that way moving forward you have a more balanced, more harmonious plan where you can communicate with people more effectively. So there's a lot of different things that could be coming up for Leo and for Leo rising. But a lot of, mostly positive energy. I mean, this is you breaking free from, day-to-day patterns of thinking. This is you bringing in new sort of exciting experiences, new belief systems through, study and through, investigating different philosophies and different sort of religious practices and things like that, or just learning about something that's broad and expansive and exciting for you in some sort of way. So, this is you wanting to break free and to have some new experiences. For Virgo and for Virgo rising. So the energy with the Sun and Jupiter and Mercury in retrograde all coming together is happening in your 4th house, which is the house of home and family. And so this is highlighting the need to revisit something or redo something or reorient yourself at home, so that way you can have more sort of beneficial energy there, right? So this is you maybe doing some rearranging. This is you doing some reorganizing. This is you revisiting a situation that might have been difficult in the past with a family member, but maybe you revisit it this time. There's a little bit of a conflict with Mars, squaring from the 7th house, and it's resolved a lot more easily, right? And so you get to have the benefits of Jupiter moving forward, which is going to help you to have improvements in your relationships with your family members, improvements in your home and your living situation, your living conditions. This could maybe even be you revisiting some sort of contract involving your home, your family, your property, like a renter's agreement, like a lease, or your mortgage or something like that, where you're making adjustments to it. And that way, when Mercury goes direct, you know what you need to do, and you can create a better situation for yourself and for your family moving forward. But this is going to be a lot of energy around family. This is a really good week for you to connect with family. And there could be some sort of argument or dispute, especially with, a spouse or a marriage partner or a close family member that might come around, and there might be a little bit of tension there. But with Jupiter in the mix this time, it's not necessarily going to be as difficult as it was in the past, which would have been a couple of weeks ago that this might have come around the first time. So you might be able to actually get some sort of resolution, and that resolution might be beneficial and positive to you. And it might benefit your family dynamic in general. This could also be, so I would say be careful though of just jumping in and saying things that you don't mean to family members this week. If you are confronted by somebody, take some time to think things through and to make sure that you know what you want to say and how you want to say it, so it doesn't come across in sort of the wrong way, because that's a thing that can totally happen with Mercury, squaring Mars. Your language might come across in a way that's like blunt or abrasive, or their language might come up in a way that's blunt or abrasive, or it's just not very tactful, because that's Mercury in the sign of Sagittarius. And so you might find yourself reacting instead of responding. And so this is a time when you want to make sure that you're thinking things through and giving a good response instead of just reacting to what people are saying to you. In terms of the opposition between Venus and Uranus, this is coming exact in your 2nd and your 8th house. And so this is the time, very literally, to make adjustments to your finances, to your budget. This could show, a need to create a better plan for your money, to create better balance and harmony with your resources. There could be an unexpected sort of expense that comes up that you have to sort of deal with, but hopefully you've made, all of the adjustments you've needed to make in this area or these areas, especially over the past 8 years with Uranus transiting your 8th house. So that way, when the expense comes up, it's not a big deal for you. And if it is a big deal for you, that's a sign that you need to make some more adjustments, balance your budget, right? Maybe invest your money in different areas or save in different ways, or come up with a new way to create money and resources for yourself that is more liberating, more exciting, and gives you more freedom, if you feel stuck or stagnant in that area. This could also be, an unexpected sort of bill or debt that comes back around, right, that you have to sort of revisit and you have to deal with. This could bring unexpected circumstances. This could bring beneficial unexpected circumstances, in terms of 8th house stuff, which is other people's money. So maybe your partner unexpectedly gets a bonus for the holidays, or, some money comes in from an outside source through inheritance, or through, you get money back from like taxes or something. So there could be, money that comes in unexpectedly from the outside, but there could also be a disruption in the opposite direction. It just kind of depends on where you're at with this. So, but the main theme here is making the final adjustments that you need to make in terms of your money, your resources, so that way you can feel liberated, you can have the independence that you want in a financial sense, but you can also, you also have the money that you want and that you need for sort of more luxurious expenses, right? This is Libra on the 2nd house cusp, and this is Venus in the 2nd house. And so this is about spending money on things that have value to you, spending on things that are beautiful and that are, made well, right? With Venus, that type of thing. So, spending on things that are a little bit more luxurious, maybe that's what the adjustment is. You want to make sure that you have the ability to do that moving forward. All right. All right, and for Libra rising, this energy with the Sun and Jupiter and Mercury in retrograde is happening in your 3rd house of communication. And so, abrupt and unexpected communication might come into that area. It might be a little disruptive at first. You could have conflicts or sort of conflicts and disagreements, right? Especially with people related to your work, your coworkers. If you work in a healing profession, there could be some sort of disruption to your workflow, or in general, right? This might just be a really busy week for you with Mars in your 6th house. Mars in the 6th house is usually a time when you have to work a little bit harder. There's a lot more to do. And with Mercury squaring Mars, you might have an influx of communication at the start of this week, which might be a little frustrating for you, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily a bad thing, right? It's going to be, maybe you get an influx of communication because you work in a field where, with the holidays, you're getting a lot of sales. And so it could be very intense for you, but the end results are going to be positive and are going to be beneficial for you. This would be a great time for you to work on some sort of marketing campaign. If you are, in that type of business where, you're working in retail, or you're working in any sort of business where you sort of have to take charge of the marketing aspects of things. So you have, so the area of communication is going to be highlighted for you over the course of this next month, and really over the course of the next year, with Jupiter transiting through your 3rd house. And with Mercury retrograding here, this is a time for you to sort of refine and hone in on your communication style. This is a time for you to revisit old communications, especially as it relates to siblings, extended family members, as it relates to your community, your neighbors, the people in your neighborhood. Sorry, I have a big window in front of me, and there's like a cat on our roof trying to get our birds on the bird feeder. Anyway, okay, so this is, and this could be an energy of you having to sort of revisit old conflicts in communication with, those types of people, siblings, extended family members, neighbors, people in your neighborhood, people in your community. This could also be an energy of you sort of rethinking the way that you communicate your ideas, right? Or you could be utilizing this energy to write something or to learn a new skill set. It really just depends on where you're at. But this is a really beneficial energy for you this week in terms of communication, as long as you're not jumping the gun, as long as you're not speaking before you think about things thoroughly, and as long as you're not reacting to any sort of conflict that comes in and comes your way, and you're taking the time to think things through and to respond, right? That's the sort of energy of Mercury square Mars, is like reacting versus responding, right? Are you going to just say and blurt out the first thing that comes to your mind because you're angry or you feel threatened, or, maybe that person came off in a way that was abrasive or blunt because of the energy that, this aspect entails? Or are you going to, think it through and make sure that you're going to react or respond appropriately, right? To come up with something good to say, so that way you're not just causing more conflict and stirring things up. And this could just be you sort of overdoing things, right? Because this is that this Jupiter energy as well, where maybe you're working too hard and there's just too much communication. We're focusing too much on marketing. You're focusing too much on like learning some new skill set. Maybe you're studying, but you're studying way too hard for whatever test or exam that's coming up. And you need to rein it back in a little bit. If you are studying for something, this is a good time to review things from the past that you might not even think that you need to review right now. And then in terms of the energy of Venus and Uranus, this is one last visit of Uranus in your 7th house. So making last adjustments and revisiting things in relationships, right? This could bring unexpected endings or beginnings in relationship for you. This is going to bring a lot of changes and adjustments to your relationships this week. And so, it could be that an old relationship comes back around, or that, a new relationship forms, or that a relationship ends rather abruptly, or that you need to make some changes to your relationships or to your contractual agreements in order to have a more balanced, harmonious sort of relationship with that person, or relationship with that contract, right? This could also, so this has been going on in your 2nd and 8th house the first couple of times, so September 12th and October 31st. That would have been, potentially making adjustments and changes related to finances, resources, joint finances, debt, other people's money, needing to become more liberated in the way that you utilize your resources or save your resources. This time around, it's more about your relationship. Or your relationships with other people, and needing to break free from any energy where you feel repressed or bogged down or unsettled or frustrated in your relationships. That's going to be a cue to change something, right? To take hold of that energy. Otherwise, something might come from the outside and change it for you, which is fine. And it could bring, unexpected benefits to your relationship as well. So there's, two sides to every transit. And this one, with Uranus, it tends to be quite neutral. So there's a need to change something. There's a need to liberate yourself. And, you can either take hold of that energy or that energy will take hold of you. All right. And for Scorpio and for Scorpio rising, the stellium going on here. So we have the Sun, Jupiter, and Mercury in retrograde all coming together in your second house at the start of this week. And so this could bring, money will probably be on your mind. And so there could be some sort of conflict between the need or the desire to create resources for yourself, you focusing on the bigger picture, the broader perspective as it relates to your resources and sort of mapping things out for the future. And, you wanting to engage in your hobbies, your interests, your passions and play. And there could be a conflict here where maybe you need to revisit something or make adjustments to your financial situation or the way that you create resources for yourself in order to allow yourself the time to play and to engage in your passions, to enjoy romance, to go out and do things that are fun and spontaneous with your partner, to spend more time with your children if you have any. These are all potentials. But there is going to be the need to revisit something or redo something as it relates to your finances this week. And doing this and making those adjustments, that's going to be very beneficial to you moving forward. So it's going to highlight finances. Money will definitely be on your mind. There will be, some changes that you're going to need to make. You might have to revisit some energy from the past, rebalance your budget. Anytime you have Mercury retrograde in the second house, it's a good time to revisit your budget and to revise things in that respect. But when you have Jupiter and the Sun there too, like it's really being highlighted, and it's being highlighted in a way where, you can get recognition through acquiring more resources because you made these adjustments. This could also be you just getting some sort of bonus or something like that that was supposed to come around before and didn't, and now it's coming back around and you get, a little bit of money coming in for you. That could be part of it too. So yeah, and this could bring money or some sort of recognition in a financial sense where money's coming in unexpectedly from the past, which you maybe forgot about, and it comes back around. You get a check in the mail. That could be really exciting for you. So, those types of things can come around as well. But there is a need to make adjustments, and especially to make adjustments in order to allow yourself to have more time for play, for pleasure, to engage in the things that you do because you love to do them. The other energy that's happening is Uranus in your 6th and in your 12th house. This could be you having to make final adjustments in terms of your health, your daily routines, in terms of your day-to-day work routines, right? And seeing what's working for you and what's not working for you. So you might be sort of making last-minute adjustments to your schedule for the coming year, right? And thinking about how you want 2019 to look in terms of your day-to-day work routines and your day-to-day habits. This could also bring unexpected changes in relationships that are work-related or relationships that have to do with 12th house themes, right? Relationships with doctors, nurses, and especially in the 6th house, healers of all kinds, where, these relationships might come back around and you might have to reintegrate them or make changes to them in some sort of way. Maybe this is you finding, a new doctor with Uranus in the 6th house. Maybe you've been working on healing something and it hasn't been working out for you. And so this could bring an abrupt ending to that relationship. And maybe you find someone unexpectedly who is able to help you out in the way that you need. That could be part of it as well. This is also you making adjustments to your work routine so you have more time to bring balance and harmony into your life through rest and spending time in solitude, seclusion, right? The 12th house is the house of rest. It's the house where we get away from day-to-day reality and we get to sort of just decompress and escape, right? It's the house of escape. And so maybe we need to escape a little more. Scorpios have been having a lot of energy going on over the course of this past year with the North Node in Leo in the 10th house. Uranus has been in the 6th house. It's been, a little busy maybe. So this is you thinking about, okay, I have this last chance to make adjustments before the new year to my daily routines, to my health, to whatever it is. So that way moving forward, I can have better balance and I can spend more time in solitude. I can spend more time doing my spiritual practices. I can spend more time being creative or doing whatever it is that you like to do, that you enjoy doing, that keeps you out of the day-to-day grind and gives you that rest and reprieve. All right, Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. The start of this week, it's all about you. So you have the Sun, Jupiter, and Mercury all coming into this conjunction in your first house, which is the house of self, right? So this is you focusing on your needs, your self-interest, maybe even your body and your physical appearance. This is highlighting the need to revisit something or redo something. Maybe you got a bad haircut during Venus retrograde and you want to go back and fix it and re-edit it, right? This could also bring conflict coming from your home, your family, your property that you might have to address or readdress because you have Mars and Pisces in your fourth house, you know, in this square with all of these planets really, but especially with Mercury this week. And so this could bring, you know, conflict and dispute as it relates to your family members and as it relates to your place of living, where something might come up where you feel like you really need to say something or you really need to take action, but maybe you need to kind of take a step back and reflect and review before you move forward and before you say that thing that maybe you don't mean, or maybe it comes across in the wrong way. But with Jupiter conjunct the sun, you know, whatever it is that you're revisiting, whatever conflict you're readdressing, the end results of you working through that energy are likely to be positive. And so this is a week where you really need to focus on the bigger picture of what you want, right? What do you want moving forward? The year's coming to an end. You have this time to make last minute adjustments and changes to your appearance, to your self-image, to, you know, your anything that involves you and your own self-interest. And, you know, this is going to help you to get a lot more recognition moving forward as Jupiter continues to move through your sign. So and also, you know, if you have your birthday, if you're a Sagittarius sun sign and you have your birthday this week, especially at the start of this week, you're going to have, you know, Jupiter with your sun, which is actually a really great, benefic, sort of auspicious aspect to have for your solar return. So that just indicates that, you know, you're going to have a lot of ease in the year ahead, and a lot of really good benefits can come to you. And this is also a time when you could be recognized today and, you know, throughout this year, if you do have your sun, you know, at these beginning degrees of Sagittarius, this is a time when you might be recognized by somebody in a position of authority. And so, or it might be revisiting like an old sort of recognition where you're recognized for a project that happened a long, long time ago. And then all of a sudden it comes back around and they're like, oh, Sagittarius, you did a great job. And so that could be part of it as well. The other energy that's happening is Uranus in opposition to Venus, which is actually happening in your 11th and 5th house. And so you've been having this Uranus 5th house transit for the past 8 years, where you've been sort of coming into really new and exciting hobbies and interests and finding things that you love to do that you never would have expected. You've probably been exploring a lot of unusual paths when it comes to your free time. And so, you know, that you're revisiting that energy and integrating any sort of new experiences that you need to integrate into this area. This could also bring abrupt changes to relationships on a romantic level, relationships with your children, and also relationships with friends and groups of people, where maybe you need to come back into balance by, you know, changing something in terms of your dynamic with your social network. This could also be an energy where I would say this could be, you know, somebody maybe even coming back around into your life because, you know, Uranus is in retrograde. But this is the last time, the last chance to make adjustments in the area of your hobbies, your interests, the things that you love to do before Uranus moves fully back into Taurus at the start of next year. And it's going to be in your 6th house from then on out. And, you know, this could bring abrupt beginnings or abrupt endings in relationships, especially romantic sort of flings and things like that, love affairs. And also, you know, in terms of your friendships, you might have somebody new come into your life and, you know, you have to integrate them into your social circle. And it's a really exciting new friendship, and it sort of livens things up for you, and it allows you to engage in your passions a little bit more because maybe you share certain passions. So that could be part of it too. All right, for Capricorn and for Capricorn rising, this energy with the Sun and Jupiter and Mercury in your in Sagittarius is happening in your 12th house. The 12th house is the house of rest. It's the house of where you go when you're not working, where you go when you want to sort of get away from the world. And so this is a lot of energy highlighting a need to sort of take time for yourself. I need to take time to spend more time behind the scenes, spend time in solitude, seclusion, contemplation, meditation, spend time focusing on your creative pursuits. But this is a time where, you know, you should try your best, even though you're a Capricorn rising, to maybe, you know, delegate some of your responsibilities so that way you have an opportunity to spend more time focusing on yourself, focusing on your spiritual practice, focusing on your inner needs, your subconscious desires. This is a really excellent time for sort of dream work and things like that. With Mercury in retrograde, you might have dreams where you're revisiting energies from the past, and those are being highlighted because you need to reintegrate that, or there's something subconsciously that you haven't worked through. With the Sun and Jupiter in your 12th house, this is a great time to go on some sort of retreat, to take a vacation, to take some time away from the world. And a lot of really great benefits can come through doing that. And also exploring different spiritual practices, that type of thing. You know, this is going to be a lot of time for you to sort of rest over the next year, which, you know, is going to be very much needed because you're going to be having, so a lot of the benefits right now to you are going to come through rest, through contemplation, through spiritual practice, through 12th house sorts of institutions and themes like spiritual retreat centers, ashrams, monasteries, even hospitals, prisons, those types of things. A lot of great benefits can come to you through those institutions as well. You know, but you're going to be having some difficult energy with Saturn and Pluto in the South Node in your sign. So that's where a lot of the benefits for the coming year even are going to come through, is through this 12th house energy of just spending time away from the world. There could be some sort of conflict or communication that comes in that disrupts your ability to, it disrupts your like Zen, right? It disrupts your ability to disconnect because you have Mars in your third house of communication squaring Mercury in retrograde. You might have to revisit an old communication, an old conflict. It could even bring, you know, Mercury retrograde hiccups that you feel like you maybe need to jump in and address right away. But I would say, you know, take your time. You don't have to jump right in. You don't have to answer that message that was a little bit salty or aggressive, you know, immediately. Make sure that you have time to respond rather than react, and make sure that you're taking time away from the busyness of daily life this week. The other thing that's happening is that you're having Uranus and Venus coming into opposition in your 10th and your 4th house. The 4th house is the house that's associated with your home, your family, your roots, your ancestors. And so this could be you making some last minute adjustments to come back into balance in the area of home and family, and to create greater freedom and liberation for yourself in the area of your home, your family, your property. This could also bring unexpected relationships that come in or that begin or end related to your work, to your career, to your public reputation, but also to your home and your family. Maybe it's, you know, somebody that you haven't seen, like a family member, like a long lost relative that sort of shows up this holiday season, right? And you weren't really expecting them to be there, but, you know, it could be exciting, and it could be something that is disruptive in a positive way. This could also bring unexpected recognition or unexpected money that comes in through the hard work and efforts in your 10th house. This could also bring in unexpected new partnerships or changes, and abrupt sort of shocking changes to your patterns, to your habits, to your balance in your work life and your day-to-day work experience. So a lot of different energies could potentially come up. The last time these two transits came exact were September 12th, which was in Taurus and Scorpio, and October 31st. And so, you know, mid-September through and then also the end of October and beginning of November, thinking back to that time period and what was going on, you know, around then in terms of, you know, abrupt beginnings, endings, new changes in relationships and finances and all of that can give you a clue as to what's coming around this time, although this time it's coming around in a little bit of a different way. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising, you have the Sun, Jupiter, and Mercury all sitting in your 11th house of friends and social networks. And so this is a really great week for you to socialize, you know, go to a party, spend time, you know, around groups of people that you love to be with, that you're with by choice, right? You know, this could potentially be you having to revisit an old friendship, reconnecting with people from your past and reintegrating them in a way that's very positive. There could be some sort of conflict or difficulty or disruption coming from the area of your finances, where you feel like you really need to jump in and do something and to act on some sort of plans. And you might act a little abruptly or impulsively in a way that it's not necessarily going to benefit you very well moving forward. So you just pay attention to that. So if something does come up and you feel like, oh, I need to do this right now because I need the money, take a step back and think and reflect on that before you actually act on it, because, you know, it might not turn out in the way that you think it will. It might lead you to disappointment. You might overdo things and burn yourself out. So just kind of, you know, look at that before you jump in and do something. But a lot of really good benefits can come to you through your relationships this week, especially with groups of people, clubs, organizations, social networks, even, through connecting with people via the internet. Really positive, really beautiful, beneficial energy can come through that area of life. The other thing that's going on is that you have an opposition between Venus and Uranus, which is happening in your 9th and your 3rd house. And if you have your midheaven and IC at the first degrees of Scorpio and Taurus, I would go back and listen to the Capricorn interpretation, because this is also going to be affecting you very heavily in your 4th and your 10th house. And the past 2 times that this came exact, it actually was in your 4th and your 10th house in the whole sign chart. So, just kind of go back and reflect on that if you feel like you need to. But, the first time this came exact was mid-September. The second time was end of October. So you would have had end of October, beginning of November, this activation of this transit, but it would have been activated a little bit more in terms of making changes and adjustments to your career, your public reputation, and your home and family situation. This time around, it's kind of making changes and adjustments to relationships with people that are involved in your education, people in foreign countries, and connections with people in foreign countries that might come up rather, unexpectedly to you. Unexpected travel opportunities or money that comes in that helps you to, embark on a travel opportunity. Those are all potentials. But this is, this could bring shocking, sort of abrupt changes to relationships with your community, with your siblings, with your extended family members, especially cousins and aunts and uncles and, people that sort of fit under that category. This could be, changes in your neighborhood. This could be unexpected changes to your neighbors, right? Maybe you had a really great neighbor who you really connected with, and, suddenly they just leave and they move and you don't know where they went. And, that could be part of it too. Or, you could have someone sort of knock on your door who you've never met before, and they're like, "Hi, I'm your neighbor." And maybe you make a new friendship that way. This could also be you making changes and adjustments to your education. And so maybe kind of going back and thinking about pursuing some sort of higher educational pursuit, coming back into balance by exploring and changing your belief systems. This could bring shocking new communication or shocking new knowledge into your life that sort of disrupts your balance and your equilibrium when it comes to your beliefs, but it's really going to help you to overall in the long run have a more balanced, harmonious belief system where you're kind of taking into account the needs of other people as well as your own. And so it's going to liberate you from old, stuck, stagnant ways of thinking and ways of believing. And this could bring up unexpected travel opportunities as well. All right. So for Pisces and for Pisces rising, you have the Sun, Jupiter, and Mercury all together in your 10th house of career and public reputation. So a lot of your focus this week is going to be on work. This could be you finally getting the recognition that you've been wanting for some sort of big sort of project, or getting recognition from a superior, or somebody revisiting an old project that you did, and finally it comes back around and you get the recognition that you've been seeking. This could be you coming into conflict with somebody in a position of authority where they say something that rubs you the wrong way, or you say something that rubs them the wrong way. If this is the case, just take a step back and really reflect and think before you say anything further, just because, you could overdo it and cause a little bit of a mess. This could also be you sort of having really high expectations for something as it relates to your work, your career, your public reputation, and your expectations not necessarily being met. It doesn't mean that you won't get recognition and you won't get benefits. It just means that, it's not going to meet what you think is going to happen. So your expectations are exceeding reality to a certain extent. But a lot of energy around your career this month in general, but especially this week. And a lot of really great benefits can come to you through your career, through your work, and through the efforts that you've been putting in that area of life. The other energy that's happening is going to be this opposition between Venus and Uranus, which is happening in your 2nd and your 8th house. And so this could bring abrupt changes to your finances. This could bring financial windfall, but this could also bring, an unexpected expense that depletes your finances and depletes your resources just as easily. So this could bring shocking, unexpected changes as it relates to money, as it relates to joint finances and other people's money, as it relates to the money that you create through your own work, your own efforts. But whatever comes up for you, any changes that come about or any frustration in this area, it's showing you what you need to change, because this is sort of your last last chance to come back into balance and to make the changes that you need to make in order to feel much more liberated on the financial level, in order to have the financial freedom that you truly desire. So looking at what feels frustrating in these areas, looking at where the sort of shocking, unexpected events are coming up, that's going to help you to know where to sort of focus your energy in order to make those adjustments, so that way you have a much better footing for yourself moving forward and into 2019. All right. So thank you all so much for watching this video, subscribing to my channel. You can also find me on Facebook. I started doing an Instagram too, because that's just kind of what you do. And I'll post the links to that in the description below. And as always, you can book a reading with me or get a gift certificate for a friend, a relative, whoever you think would enjoy having a reading. I have different options for different budgets and all of that. I have a single question, a 30-minute, and a 1-hour gift certificate, and they are all 10% off this week. So make sure that you jump on that deal before Tuesday. And I will see you guys all next week. I hope you have a really wonderful weekend. Bye.